Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Rich Clark and I've been a hypnotherapist for the last 8 years and actually currently to 9 years, and I've been a holistic therapist for the last 15 years. So today I'm going to talk about a subject called, it's actually about OCD. Now, why am I going to talk about OCD and what's it linked to with hypnotherapy? Well, many people have forms of OCD. Now, OCD is obsessive-compulsive disorder. Now, within this, there's various treatment approaches to this, and I'm going to talk from a personal point of view because as a child I had a form of OCD. So as I was younger, I used to have certain ways if I tidied my toys, they had to be done a certain way. My clothes had to be properly ironed. So actually when I was very young, when I got to about 5, I ironed my own clothes. I was very funny about how my clothes were folded. My books had to be a certain order in height and so forth. And even when I was a child, because I used to want to do music, I used to collect vinyl records, and once I'd actually played them, I used to record them onto cassettes, and then I'd put them away and keep them in a sealed pack, usually like a cover pack, and never play the vinyl again usually. So I know what that is with OCD and how that can work. I actually started changing that when I got into puberty. When I was about 11, 12, I started changing from that. But before then, I was quite fastidious, and it used to be a big thing that I couldn't have dirt on me and so forth. So there's also a lot of misconceptions and sayings as well. So common OCD manifestations is the first one. Number one is contamination fears and cleaning rituals. So this can be excessive hand washing. I didn't suffer with this, but it's something I know many people do. But if I say I got spilled loads of ink on my hands and I couldn't get it off, that would be like, I couldn't imagine having one bit of dirt. And if also played in mud or sand, my hands had to be spotless. So I know how that can feel, and it can be very damaging too, because you can make the skin very rough, and it actually happened to a lot of people during COVID times as well. The fear of germs, dirt, or environmental contaminants is very useful. In certain environments can make you very wary of that. And avoiding contaminated objects or spaces. So the idea of people going into places where something was dirty. And I actually had a next door neighbour who I went to read with. I used to clean his house up all the time when I used to go there, even as a child, because he was dirty. So I know how it's very much this idea of things and how we can do it. So cleaning is a big one, and I'm going to do another talk about cleaning next today as well. Number 2 is checking behaviours. So your checking behaviours is repeatedly checking locks, appliances or switches. So sometimes when you turn a switch off, you're checking it. Sometimes you have a way of doing it one or twice to make sure it's on or off. Constant verifying that nothing terrible has happened. This is sometimes we get into the idea of, have we locked the door? We go and double check these things. And needing to check loved one's safety. Now this is where I know a lot of people, they're very wary of if their siblings go out, kids go out, so forth. Can be very damaging to people. A good example of showing this in a film is As Good As It Gets with Jack Nicholson, where he shows a routine of how he cleans his hands excessively with soap and replaces the soap every time. How he locks the door once or twice or 3 times until he knows it's done. And then he also goes to a restaurant, he has to have plastic cutlery because he can't have metal because he wants it always clean, they can chuck it away. So the other thing as well with OCD is number 3 is symmetry and ordering. And this is needing objects to be perfectly aligned. This is probably the one I noticed most when I was a kid. It was really an issue that if I had books or any toys, it had to be in a height order, or if books, they had to be like from the smallest book to the highest book. I don't do it so much now, but I still have that issue, and everything has to be in alphabetical order. I used to be that with my CDs, records, everything. Everything had to be in alphabetical order, or in genre, or groups, or so forth. So I know, again, this is an example of, some people would call this over-successively organised, but that's how people are. Repeating actions until they just feel just right. So sometimes you repeat an action until you get it right. And sometimes when they say practice makes perfect, for someone who's got OCD, that's an incredibly difficult thing to deal with. So you have to be wary of that. And the strong distress when things are not asymmetrical. So the things also, that can also be issues with when things, if you see there's something on the wonk, if something's not done properly, if something's propped up. I used to dislike that as well. When I used to go to things, I could see something was propped up on something